Spain is facing one of the biggest migration crises in its recent history after around 50,000 migrants crossed into the North African enclave of Ceuta from Morocco in a massive surge. The unprecedented influx overwhelmed local authorities and triggered a major humanitarian emergency, with at least 57 people losing their lives during the crossings. Spanish authorities have since returned most of the migrants to Morocco, while many others went back voluntarily after finding no food, shelter or route to mainland Europe. In response, Spain has tightened border security and announced plans to install floating barriers in the waters of Ceuta to prevent another large-scale sea crossing. The crisis has also reignited a political debate across Europe, with questions over migration policies, border security, human trafficking networks and the role of social media in encouraging the dangerous crossings. European leaders are now pushing for stronger external border controls as investigation continues into what triggered the unprecedented migrant surge. We'll talk about this and try and get some semblance from our guests. Joining us on the platform is Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat, Dr. Sharat Kori, senior economist, Major General Sudhakarji, defense and geopolitical expert, is also with us, and last but by no means the least, Mr. Pathakrit Payan, international affairs expert, also joins us on the broadcast. Ambassador Mukherjee, I'll begin with you, ma'am. What is this a symptom of that we are seeing? This influx of thousands of people getting into Europe. First of all, it looked like, a war scenario. It looked like the Greeks on the Trojan Bay. And of course, that's been recently made popular by that movie Odyssey as well. But the fact of the matter is that this is a symptom of something which is very, very wrong in the way Europe has been dealing with the immigration problem. And it's also symptomatic of the fact that they have not been able to separate the chaff from the grain.
Actually, it's very unusual for Moroccans to be involved in this kind of mass migration, because Morocco, I don't know if you visited it, I've gone there many times, it resembles a developed country, and Moroccans are not interested in anything Spanish or Portuguese or Italian. They are very, 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 very French. They would not want to, even if they move to this place, they would be interested in moving to France, mainland France. There are also a fairly large number of Moroccans who were brought in as so-called guest workers, I remember, when I was in Netherlands. And the Dutch, who thought they were very smart, called them guest workers because they said then they have to go back. Guests have to go back. They never went back. They remained wedded to their Moroccan Orthodox traditions. They didn't gel. They are now Dutch citizens, but they don't look Dutch at all. So what I'm saying is that all over the European Union, they need to rethink their policies, because some of the flows come in from ex-colonies, which they have abandoned or not given development aid, etc. Others push in because they want to move to mainland Europe, which means primarily Germany, France, and in the good old days before Brexit, cross the English Channel to London, which now has deeply fallen in popularity as far as immigrants are concerned. What is of great importance to us, Vineet, is that we should pick up all these examples and say, we are not going to allow any illegal immigrants anywhere, whether on the east or on the west, or from Sri Lanka or from Myanmar. We are going to do exactly what the West does. If it is make Europe great again, make US great again, we are wedded to make India great again. We don't have place for immigrants. We will force our neighbors to ensure that minorities are well treated. We don't have place to accommodate them in India with this huge population. So we should use this opportunity to tell the West and the EU, who are very, very good at sermonizing, that if you guys can do this, you've sent back immigrants, they are signatories to the UN Refugee Convention, by which you cannot send back immigrants, migrants. They have sent them back. We have never ratified the Refugee Convention for the same reason. And we would say, you've sent them back, you are signatories. We will do what it takes to safeguard India's national interests. Beneath.
Absolutely right. In fact, Dr. Kohli, Giorgia Meloni has said that Spain should be suspended as a Schengen visa participant because they've not been able to secure their own borders. And this would obviously create a surge in other parts of Europe as well. But this is the reality, isn't it? People are thronging to Europe, despite, crime going up, despite, human rights violations going up. In the thousands because of better economic opportunities, and countries like Morocco that are extremely close to some of these surface areas in Europe have taken advantage of the lopsided laws in countries like Spain also, Dr. Kohli.
Good evening, Vineet, to you, my fellow panelists and the viewers. So, well, you look at the other side of the coin. All these migrants, they probably, I agree with Ambassador Mukherjee, they're probably not from Morocco. I've been to Casablanca, I've been to Rabat. If you see these areas, it almost seems like Europe. It seems like parts of France. And, utterly prevalent French culture, language is French. Things are not all that bad in Morocco. I mean, we need to keep in mind, but Morocco shares borders with the rest of Africa as well. So there is a lot of illegal migration. So I call this as second-tier migration problem. The first-tier migration problem is faced by Morocco itself, which probably is not as much bothered as much Europe is. So these people apparently first moved to Morocco, which is obviously, as you rightly said, geographically the closest to Europe. And from there on, this whole problem which ran into thousands, which we've been witnessing over the last few days, primarily is an offshoot of social media. There were two news running on social media, and I did some research on social media channels over there. One was that they were suddenly announced that, the borders of Spain are open. And, it's all okay to move through right now. The second rumor which was floating around social media is there is some Spanish ruling which says that migrants are being welcomed or they are not being sent back or whatever. There was a court ruling which was being misquoted. So these were the two prime reasons why we saw droves and droves of migrants running there. And if you look at the other side of the coin, as I was saying, the root of the problem is economics. Because the lack of opportunities in Africa, I mean, Africa primarily, lacks opportunities for the youth. The income levels are low, rampant poverty, I would say. People struggle for 2 meals a day. So, for them to risk their lives, be riding on tires, crossing the waters, dangerous waters, I would say. So for them, let's try and get into a mind of a migrant. They say it's better to die and take a chance and reach that country rather than slowly dying in the place where they are currently living. So this speaks, volumes about the kind of conditions these migrants must be living in, because it's not an easy decision, Vineet. You will appreciate. You're risking your life for what? You're risking your life for better future. And on the other side is a life where they are dying every day. There is no employment, there is rampant poverty, nothing to eat. Hygiene conditions are very poor. I mean, you're very well traveled, so am I, and so are my fellow panelists. Ambassador Mukherjee has been posted in so many countries. Pathikrit, everybody on the panel has very, very widely traveled. And, Africa was one place where I would keep as the last option unless there was a compulsion of work, because what you witness there is very, very disturbing. So it is these economic conditions which propel this kind of mindset, or because they know that there is a big chance of an accident and death while transitioning. There's a big chance while traveling, because you're traveling on a tire. You can imagine, in an ocean, you can literally get washed off and nobody would even know. Well, these deaths occurred when they were closer to the place, but there could have been deaths which might have occurred while they were in the middle of the ocean as well, which nobody would have known, because there is no videography which is going on while a person is traveling. So I think, and as far as Europe is concerned, if you travel around Europe, you will find in France, Germany, Belgium, all of these countries, you will find these people setting up their stalls on roadsides, in flea markets. They would be illegitimately selling, copy goods and so on. So they are all migrants from that. So I think Europe has failed to check these migrant crises. And I agree with Ambassador Mukherjee that India has a lesson to learn. We saw what happened in Bangladesh when the West Bengal government changed. So this is a kind of Bangladesh happening in Europe, for that matter. And the destination of these migrants in Spain, Vineet, is France, is Germany. They definitely don't want to stay in Spain. So because of the 29 countries being part of the Schengen, they're going to move to other countries, and eventually they will get spread out. And obviously the Italian Prime Minister was worried about that these people are going to, and if you move around Italy, you will find dozens and dozens on every single town. They will be on the streets doing all sorts of jobs. The immigration department is failing to probably track them down and pack them back to their countries. So I think the other European nations are now worried. And the Italian Prime Minister rightly said we're going to suspend Spain, because if they allow it's a danger for all of us. So a huge problem which Europe has to, and not that these migrants should know, not that Europe at this time is flourishing. These European countries are struggling themselves on economy. I mean, if you were brought a migrant probably here on screen, I would have told him that, look, where you're landing is not a land of opportunity at this point of time. Well, the answer would be, it's better than the hell that we are staying in right now. So I think a huge problem for Europe. Let's see how they deal with it, how many are sent back, but then a lesson for us to learn as well.
All right. It's General Sudhakarji, it is a lesson to learn, but it's a scary lesson at that, isn't it? I mean, look at the fallout of something like this happening in India. What are the takeaways for us when it comes to this? So this is obviously an important reminder or a wake-up call for nations that your borders, sensitive areas, some of these unaccommodated socioeconomic groups can take advantage of vulnerabilities, and that can happen in India as well. General Sudhakarji.
Yeah, good evening, Vinay. Thank you for inviting me for your show, and my greetings to a very distinguished co-panelist. Before I comment on the question per se you have raised, let me very quickly reflect my understanding on the subject. Spain is with a population of around 4.9 crores. It has got median age at places it shows as 47.9 years, but most of the places shows around 45 years approximately. They have a depleting strength of workforce. They have to depend on the migrants for sustaining the economy as also day-to-day life. Now they have got two small little pieces of land towards Moroccan side across Strait of Gibraltar, and this has been in occupation since 1580, much against the demands of the Moroccan government. And the small little islands or isotherms that you call Ceuta and Melilla are very close to Morocco. The nearest waterway is of a distance of 1 to 5 kilometers. They can wade through the shallow water, and the Spanish territory starts from there. So what is the problem? The problem, as per my understanding, are basically three issues. Number one, there is a policy which has been formulated by the government, the ruling dispensation, which is being objected to by the opposition party in Spain, that the approximately 500,000 undocumented migrants must be integrated into the main workforce of Spain. That is one. This has been contested in the parliament by the opposition leader, and he has actually flagged the issue time and again for past several years. Number one. Number two, the second policy, it is not a rumor nor is a social media. As per my research, it is coming out very loudly that the Supreme Court of Spain has given a verdict. It's given a judgment that people or the migrants who are coming through the seas, who are swimming across, they will not be pushed back. Whereas those who are crossing the fencing and boundary and coming to Ceuta and Melilla towards Morocco side, being part of Spain, they certainly will be given a kind of a hot pushback. Immediately they have to be pushed back. Now this is why there is an upsurge, because it seems that the media and the criminal gangsters they have actually given out something in social media that the maritime coastline boundary or the border of Spain is open. Anyone is welcome to come. That's why the chaos. Now, as far as India is concerned, yes, we have to derive a lot of lessons out of it, whether it is Sri Lanka or the Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir or Maldives. Maldives, as such, quite a few important population, elite class population, they are there in Tiruvananthapuram, and a large number of people are studying in India. And we also have a lot of Pashtuns. And if you carry out a rough count, it's almost close to 32 lakhs. So therefore, these are big numbers. And the border being what it is, Nepal as such, we don't have a border. Our policy with Nepal is different. Myanmar, there's an open border. And Bangladesh, which has been an integral part of undivided British India Empire, all these things are actually, they give a clear indication that these are potential points or the borders through which these people can migrate and come into India. As such, we are facing the problem as in today. Therefore, we need to identify the issue, carry out proper analysis, and take short and medium and long-term countermeasures so as to prevent these kind of rapid influx of migrants coming into country, causing a massive problem towards employment opportunities, as also law and order situation. Back to you, Vinit.
Pathikrit, your assessment of the situation. Some of the visuals that we are running alongside our debate are extremely shocking in nature. You know, no country would want to have this sight where you just find thousands of people ashore seeping into your country and your cities, slipping through the cracks, and obviously the crime that escalates after that is also going to be a law and order situation. India obviously is not going to be so concerned about what's happened in Spain, but this is also an insight into where Europe stands today when it comes to immigration.
Well, I'll not romanticize what's happening because I know how the illegal infiltration from Bangladesh happens and how it is done by organized crime syndicates. So I have no sympathy for all these people. For a long time, there was a fallacy that poverty creates Maoism, which is absolutely false. Today, from 180 districts, Maoism have been dismantled, and it is the poor tribals who have fought against the brutal Maoists. Similarly, what you see today in Spain, well, this is not a symptom, this is cancer. What you saw is not a refugee crisis, it's an invasion happening. And you had an inept Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, who is a very close friend of Alexander Soros, George Soros' son. So he refused to actually deploy the army. So you have invasion happening of your country, and the police over there is helpless, defanged. They don't know what to do. They're actually escorting these invaders, these robbers, to come in and to create mess for all the original inhabitants of that country. Now, if somebody has a crisis and if somebody wants a job to another country, I will not get into that country to ravage that country, to destroy that country. I will not do that. And these people are actually doing that. And this has been not happening today. Those people who have come from Middle East or North Africa to Germany and many other countries, they openly say that someday the demography will entirely shift and we will actually make you slave. So let's not romanticize that it is all about, they have no jobs. With all due respect, this is not about that. There's something far more sinister happening. I know the kind of Bangladeshi ghettos which are created and what kind of crimes they get involved in, what kind of human trafficking they do, what kind of illegal activities cross-border they do, and what kind of harm they do the original inhabitants. There are places in Jharkhand and Bengal where the indigenous communities have been completely wiped out. They have been sent off. There is a huge exodus that has happened. So what you see today in Europe is basically because the Europeans have been in the same wet bed with George Soros, with the left liberal idiocy. That is what is happening. And George Soros actually funded these member of parliaments of European Union to actually allow this liberal migration policy, which have been today, today it has become a nemesis for that country. I am personally saying, and I say it on record, in the roads of UK, in London rather, the police told me that carry 10 pounds with you because if you are caught by these people, at least give them 10 pounds of it, they will break your bones. The police did not tell me that go ahead, nobody will touch you. That is the condition in many of these cities. And it's not in Spain. Italy might today say, oh, block Spain off the Schengen agreement. The situation in Italy is equally the same. The situation everywhere is equally the same. And let me tell you, in 2010-11, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International tried to do the same thing with Border Security Guard, Border Security Force. They created such a mess. The UPA actually succumbed to the pressure of Amnesty International and literally told the BSF not to use hard power against the illegal immigrants if they come in. For a long period of time, the BSF faced massive trouble. The incoming infiltrator smugglers attacked the BSF constable with machete and sharp-edged weapons. It's only in the last few years you see a lot of change. This is the same immigration fallacy that because of which Mamata Banerjee was not giving land for fencing of the border. Do you see the connect between who was actually funding the European mindset and those in India? It is the same gang which is now trying to defang and defund, make your police armless and helpless by accusing the police of preventing these so-called students to barge into the parliament which they had voted that they would burn it down. Today the police is being accused for things which they did not do. They just defended the place. And if the police had not done what they had done in case of Delhi, they would have barged into the parliament. So I'm telling you, this shows why you require a strong government. The people of Spain elected the government not to take care of the refugees who will come, and then look at I'm sorry, but look at the kind of rape incident which happens in the Scandinavian countries. And it's mostly because of the illegal immigrants. And you know, Vinit, tomorrow you want to go to any of the European Union country, you will be asked 20 odd questions as to why do you come in, because you are going legally. Now the illegal immigrants from Middle East and North Africa are given a red carpet, whereas if I go there as a legal citizen going legally, I'll be asked 50 odd questions. So I have no sympathy for what is happening in European Union. It has been about to happen for a long time. Those who suddenly say, oh, what it is happening in Spain is because they saw it in social media. Otherwise, every one of these Western European countries hand in glove with what has happened. The only reason Eastern Europe has been saved because of this, countries like Austria, Poland, and many others, is because they refused to agree to what the Western Europe was doing. It is no one else apart from European Union.
Ambassador Mukherjee, quickly, ma'am.
I wanted to conclude by saying that I agree with what Pathiprit is saying, but I want to add that we can't compare what's happening in India with what's happening in EU, because these are ex-colonialists and they did not make provision for proper development of their colonies because they were so racist, exactly the way the Brits were with us. So while I fully agree that they have the right to protect themselves, etc., one must understand that a country like India, a vast country like India, left impoverished and partitioned in 1947 because of the brutal colonial policies of the UK, has the full right, A, not to ratify the Refugee Convention and to do what it takes, whereas countries that became powerful and rich because they sucked the blood of their colonies in Africa, and this includes 80% of the countries in the European Union. If they are getting what it takes, I don't have any sympathy for them, but for reasons slightly different than Pathiprit. I have no sympathy for them because they are getting what they deserve. Moreover, I don't believe that every single illegal immigrant is raping or murdering. A lot of these murders and rapes are taking place from extreme right-wing groups in Europe, and that is a very alarming situation. They are getting encouragement from Trump and the MAGA group. If we want to have law and order and avoid a world war, these rich countries have to reverse their policies, give much more development aid to Africa and to their ex-colonies, and then these migrants won't come. Because I remember very well as ambassador that these migrants, they used to call, the Dutch used to call me and they used to tell me in Hindi, they said, "Madam, हमें रहना ही नहीं है यहाँ पर, यहाँ तो बहुत ठंड है और खाना बहुत खराब है." I said, फिर क्यों आए हो घर छोड़ के? हमें तो लंदन जाना है जी, हमें यहाँ थोड़ी रहना है, यहाँ कौन रहेगा, यहाँ ना धूप है, ना मिट्टी है, ना स्पाइस है, ना कुछ है. They should understand that what drives them, as you rightly put, and my co-panelists, their desperate economic conditions. But who is responsible for that? These European Union countries, these colonialists. So I'm sorry, beyond a point, I can't agree with Patipur.
All right,
Sorry,
ma'am.
Patipur.
All right, ma'am. We have run out of time, but I appreciate everybody's inputs. Apologies, we can't discuss this anymore. Thank you everyone for joining us. We take a short break. Be right back.
बच्चों को ये तो पता है कि जब तक पापा है